All right, we are at the final stage here. We've got our nodes built, got our body built, and it's time to put them together. So, if you want to follow exactly like on the instructions, each node is unique as far as the texture, what's on the coloring and everything. And if you want to make it look exactly like what's in the instructions, you'll want to put the nodes in the spots that it recommends. Like, for instance, this is the top front node, the long one with that blue arrow right there. I mean, the only one that really would look weird if it was in the wrong spot would be this side node, which would be the Ghost's front right hand node. Goes there. If this is the top, then because that Vanguard symbol is supposed to go right there, and if that was in the back on the bottom, it would just be silly. So that's the only one that really needs to be in the right spot, and then probably that one, because like I said, that top front node is the only one that has that blue arrow. The rest of them, the only thing that's really different is just, the texturing and all that stuff. Little nicks and scuffs and all that kind of thing that's part of the texture. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if they were in the wrong spot. Although I will say the only thing that really might look a little strange is on these side nodes that have this split down the middle. I did create the texture on this face that you can see here on the actual 3D Ghost model in the game. It has kind of like a jagged texture where it comes out and then in and then out and then in, and I thought that would be way too difficult to actually try and replicate that with actual paper in that folding the paper in that shape. It would, I don't know, increase the difficulty to a degree that I wasn't really interested in going to. So instead I just kind of replicated that with the texture that's on there, so it kind of looks lighter on the top and darker on the bottom, as if light was kind of shining from above, sort of. It would light it in that direction. And so the positioning of the nodes does take that into account. Like this is node 6, which I believe is the back right. If you're not sure, you can check on the instructions. It says, yeah, so I know for sure this is the front right, this one, and then 7's the back left. No, it's front left, so the only one left is the back right. So that one goes behind this one, and so you'll see the light shining on the part that's like that would be sloped outward. That's highlighted from above. Same with the front right. So if you get all those in their right positions, then at least that will look correct. The rest of them, there's not really anything different about them. I tried to make sure that they're all the faces are basically lighted the same, so that you couldn't tell, like, if there was actually a light shining on this node, right, you can see this face is lighter and this face is darker, but I wanted actual real world lighting to take care of that, not bake that into the texture. So there's none of that going on except for just on that spot where I'm trying to simulate that sloped shape. So anyway, yeah, so trickiest part about this is just getting all the pieces together and lined up and straight, because they all kind of interact with each other. They all have to work together. So the first thing you want to do is go through and make sure all these tabs are folded under. There are going to be some tabs that interfere with each other. Like, I don't know if you can see usually, and it's always going to be in the corners, but like this corner right here, these two tabs bump into each other. So when they try to fold down, they kind of interfere and push each other away. So it would probably be a good idea to just shave one of these back a little bit. And I usually just grab a pair of scissors and then just cut off just a tiny shred from that. So now when they push down, there's a nice gap in between them there. So sorry, that's too close. There we go. So now they push together just fine without interfering. So you'll find that will likely be the case in all of the corners. So here and here for sure. There's also a little bit of that going on right here. You'll see if they overlap like these two are doing. then we've got that same issue. And so this, not an issue here, but those four corners of this style of node, and then for this style of node, same idea. I mean, these corners are basically the same geometry, so you'll have the same thing here and here, and then here and here, but then this one has some additional corners. So like right there, you might see the issue there as well, so you might need to clean that up. Yeah, so I recommend going through all your tabs and cutting those down. I haven't done that yet, so what you'll find if you don't do that is when you try to get these and get them into position, then you'll see they kind of push up and away from the body and leave a gap there that when you try to push it down, it either has a lot of resistance or it tends to deform. You push it here and then it deforms like out here, pushes this corner out in a weird way. And so just to get that, and you're going to have to be fitting these things around a lot, put this one here, put the one next to it, and the one on the other side, and try and get everything straight and lined up and square and everything. And those, if you don't take care of those tabs ahead of time, they're just going to fight you and make that process more difficult than it needs to be. So let's go through here and just do that really quick. All right, so now cleaned up all the little tabs to make sure they're not going to interfere with each other. Now it's time to figure out how to fit these together. So this is the top front node. The seam here runs along the bottom of the Ghost. So this is the top. So it goes up here, and obviously it goes in the middle. Actually, honestly, the bottom one might be the best one to start with since we do have that guideline. So if we line that guideline up with right down the center of that node, up to the center of that center seam, then that gives us the horizontal positioning. And then for the front to back positioning, the Ghost is designed so that this seam right here is the actual center line of the body, and so it matches up with the back face of this, where the front and back nodes come together. So you can use that as a guideline as well. And also one thing you can use as a reference is the front of these tips right here are almost right at this joint of the circle. So they should basically kind of touch that or be really close to it anyway. And another way to check is if you actually look at this seam here where it comes across, the way this is built, these glue tabs are essentially flat, straight edges, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and those should coincide with these strips on the body. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should see there's a slight little, I mean, it's from far away it looks like a curve, but up close you can tell that it's a flat section, flat, 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 and those should line up. So that should also help you kind of get an idea of where this is positioned front to back and whether it's twisted, because if it's good on this side but it's not good on this side, then you got to adjust it a little bit. Now I will say that that's in an ideal world, right? But that all can be a little different depending on how how well everything has come together in the build. So the best thing to do, and so I think it's wouldn't be a good idea for me to just throw this on here and glue it down, and then move to the top one and get it in place and glue it down. And then when I get to the side one, figure out, oh, it's not exactly lining up with the side nodes that have to fit between. So what I recommend doing is at least taking the two nodes that are adjacent to it, that it has to interface with, and test fitting those as well to see how they're going to fit into everything, and if you need to adjust anything in order to get everything to line up. So like that as is, if I just I'm bringing this tip and that tip, those two tips together between the nodes, and then lining up with that circular edge on the body that I was describing, you'll see there's a bit of a gap in the back here. And so we're going to have to just kind of tweak and adjust things. If we just look at this one on its own, not really worrying about whether it's centered there just now, but if I just line up, like I said, make those edges just come down and touch that circle, that ring on the body there, then everything looks pretty good. You can see there's a bit of a gap in the back. It doesn't perfectly match up because when I brought these two together and glued it, they're shifted just slightly, or maybe one of them slightly deformed. Doesn't have a perfect shape. So you just kind of have to make it work, and that's going to be the trickiest part of this whole thing, is just getting all the nodes to fit on there and fit together well enough, like actually fit, so that if two of them are close enough together, the other node's not even going to be able to fit in between, so that's definitely not good. So they have to be able to fit together, but also look good, not be too ski-wampus. And that's tricky. It's just tricky to do. So it's going to be just fitting, trial and fitting, and then once you're confident that everything is going to go together, then you can start gluing stuff down. So yeah, let's just fiddle with it till we get it. So that one seems to fit on there pretty well. It doesn't seem too crooked. It matches up nicely in the back. These 2 points come right to that ring, just like they should. Those flat edges more or less match up without too much of a gapping problem. And then let's see, so this is the bottom node. So this will be the left. Front left? No, this is 6. That's the back right. So as you can see here, I've only made 4 nodes. I'm going to show you how to put together the front. Doing the back is basically the same thing as the front. So concepts will translate. So I'm not actually going to glue 6 on because it does not belong in the front. But I'm going to use it as kind of a guide to help me make sure everything is fitting the way it's supposed to. In fact, this is not even the bottom node. That's the top back, I think. Yeah, I've marked all these as I was putting them together just so I could keep them straight. That's the back top. So I'm going to just use that as a guide to help me position things. So like I said, this one, the bottom node should line up with that seam that's right down the middle. That's the way I've built it and designed it. Okay, that one is lining up nicely in the back. I think I'm gonna mark this one, just since I won't be able to see the ball on the inside. I can go ahead and put a mark Now, there's not much room on the middle there, so maybe what I'll do is I'll mark that corner, that corner. That'll help me center this one this way. These little spots can be tricky because there is a bend here, and then there's another bend that's really close to it for that glue tab right there. And so this has got to be one continuous face across here, but when you bend that glue tab, it tends to kind of push that in, make a little bit of a tear there and push that in further. And so it's tough to get that glue tab bent the right direction, and then when it comes to gluing it on, trying to make sure that face isn't off too much. There will be another face next to it, so it'll tend to hide it somewhat, but if it's off too bad, you still might see evidence of that. So just one little area to watch out for. Okay, I think I'm just gonna go for it. Let's glue this top node on. Like I said, it would be easier for you to start with the bottom node because that just gives you a nice center line, but since I haven't actually made the bottom node yet, and I do want to glue these in their correct places, then I don't want to put this back top node that's supposed to go back here. I don't want to put it down here, so I had to get a little creative in positioning that, but yours should go a little bit easier than that. Just using the regular craft glue for this because there's plenty of bond surface there. It should be quite strong enough that I don't need the CA glue for the extra strength. Fortunately, most of the glue seams are hidden inside, behind other nodes, with the exception of essentially just those two seams right there. So you can put lots of glue on without worrying about it too much. And in fact, when it comes time to actually glue the other nodes on, since they do contact at these surfaces, I will go ahead and add some glue there as well, just for extra strength in holding everything together. So, but for the first one, I'm not going to do that just yet, obviously. So this spot in the back doesn't usually want to push down on its own, so you got to give it a little bit of help to push it down close to the body. Okay, not bad. So yeah, there's some glue that's kind of squidging out underneath these edges, but doesn't matter. That'll be hidden. I wouldn't want to leave any large blobs, just so that when it comes time to put if this is dried by the time it comes to put the next node there, it would get in the way, make it harder to put it together. But you can just kind of smear those out of the way and don't have to worry about the cleanliness of that edge. Now for the first one, some of these edges, like especially back here, they kind of want to push away. The glue tabs, tend to want to spring back, and they push the node out of shape a little bit. When the other nodes come in next to it, they should tend to kind of push those back. But on the first one, there's no nodes next to it to help you out, so it might actually not a bad idea to grab the adjacent nodes and just kind of put them in place to just make sure that when everything comes together, it's not so deformed that it's going to cause a fit problem. It's like you can see that edge right there is kind of pooched out a little bit, just from the way those glue tabs don't want to bend very well. So I'm just going to push that back in a little bit, see if that helps. A little bit. Comes time to glue that on, it's not going to be perfect, but yeah, same. It's doing the same thing there. It's kind of pooching it out, just because of that really thin face there. Doesn't like to hold its shape. It's not very strong. Since you're going to be starting with this one on the bottom, then it might not actually hurt to then do the one that's behind it here on the bottom, so the back bottom node. That way, you've got those two nodes in place. You can go ahead and take advantage of your stand to help you, because when you set this down, it just wants to roll around, and especially when there's other nodes on it, it comes to rest in maybe a position that's not quite ideal for the best glue curing. So if you've got both of those bottom nodes, then once they've set well enough that you trust them to support the rest of the ghost, you can just set it right there and let it take advantage of your stand that you've built to hold it while it's drying. That's basically it. Yeah, so it's probably best to do those two, just so you've got, like I said, take advantage of the stand, and then I would work around your way around and finish the rest of the front. Do the front first. You get all the nodes glued in place, make sure they look nice, because that's the side that everyone's going to see, right? If there's any gaps, just try and kind of massage things until they go in. Might have to maybe rebend some of these glue tabs or whatever it takes to just get that to go in as straight as you can get it. And then, yeah, once you've done the 4 in the front, then you go up and finish those 3 in the back, and then you're done. That's it. And yeah, this is what you should end up with. You know, mine's not perfect. It's got some of these edges don't line up exactly by the time it's all glued together, but I mean, really, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. So, all right, I think that's going to be it. This is the finished ghost. What you can have when you're done.